Good afternoon, Outlands. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We have so much happening in our wonderful kingdom. In addition to Outlands RoyalTea, we have our ANS Collegium going on, so a lot of exciting, fun stuff. But today we are going to be joined by Duchess Aziza. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been really looking forward to it.
Excellent. I can't wait to get into it with you today. We've never met, which is kind of crazy to me, at least not that I recall, but I don't think we have. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know you better today and hearing about your time as Queen of the Outlands.
Me too. Me too.
So you have been Queen of the Outlands 4 times, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And were you a peer before you were a queen?
No.
No?
The first time I was queen, I had an award of arms, and that was it.
Okay.
So it was quite an experience. I hadn't played terribly broadly. Most of my events that I'd gone to were pretty local here around Alberon. I'd been to Australia, a couple of events up north and stuff, but I didn't think anyway that I was terribly well known, and I certainly didn't know a lot of people.
And then how did that change as the more times you became queen? Obviously, did it get easier? Did it get harder?
It got a lot easier. I really was able to, I think it really helped me get over public speaking.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of nice, and I got more comfortable. I got, I knew a lot more people. Every time you do it, I think you get, you remember what worked, you remember what you want to make better.
Yeah.
And it gets more comfortable, and you just get more used to everything, and good.
Awesome. So were you a war queen?
I've been both.
Both? Okay.
Yeah. The first time I was a summer queen.
Okay.
We found out Arton and I were both going to fight in that tournament. And we found out I was pregnant shortly before the tournament. And so when we got there at the beginning of court, I had to tell their majesties that I needed to withdraw from the tournament because I was pregnant. Yeah.
So you're a heavy fighter?
Yes, I haven't in a really long time, but I was, yes.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. I didn't know that about you. That's very cool.
I was actually the first female fighter in the Outlands to get a stag's blood.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that happened. Well, I guess that happened before I was queen. We had gone to Lily's in Gellir, and we just had such a great time. That was such a fun war, and that's where I got it.
Awesome. So, and Battlemore had not yet been created.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
This was like, I'm trying to think, 1989? No.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm totally wrong. That was the second time I was queen. I'm talking about everything I just told you was the second time I was queen.
Okay.
Terrible. So it was 1994.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
That was 94. So it was pretty early. The first time I was queen was 1990. Again, a summer queen.
Yeah.
I remember going to Pennsic that year. It was the first year I went to Pennsic, and that was amazing. That was quite an experience. I don't know that at that point, I haven't been in so long. I don't know what it's like now, but back then it wasn't quite an SCA event. It was more like a medieval sci-fi convention. It had you saw a lot of people that were medieval-ish, but also a lot of fantasy kind of stuff.
Yeah, you still see that, but mostly at night.
Oh yeah, no, this was all day, all night. Yeah. The most impressive thing that I loved and remembered about going to Pennsic was watching, groups of 100 fighters march by.
Yeah.
Going to the battlefield. That was just surreal. It was so amazing.
Yeah, so now I don't know how it was then, but they signal the start of battle with a cannon.
Oh, wow.
So they have a cannon up on the hill, and to signal lay on, they fire a cannon.
Wow.
And then you see like 500 people on each side, like kind of run in and just like, it's so cool. It's like the
The
sound of it. I know
sound.
it can be distressing for people that have PTSD, but
Yeah,
it is such an amazing sight and sound,
it
and
is.
you just don't ever see that anywhere else. So
No,
that's
you
really
really
cool.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which is a shame. But
So you said you were pregnant during the crown tournament for your second reign.
yeah.
So then did you reign with little ones?
Yes, I reigned while I was pregnant. Coronation, I think I had him 2 weeks after coronation.
Oh my
Yeah. So I was a bit roly poly for most of that reign.
gosh.
And my champion for that reign was Sir Vaughan. And he was just amazing, amazing. We
Aw.
went down. I went down by myself. I went down south for an arts and sciences event, I believe, and it was. I mean, we were like in. I forget exactly which town it was, and it was so hot. And being pregnant, I was even hotter.
Yeah.
And he, at one point, he dragged me into the kitchen of the hall, and he opened the refrigerator, and he put a chair in the open door of the refrigerator so I could sit in the cool air coming out of the refrigerator. That was hilarious. Yeah.
And that's the cool stuff that your champions do for you that nobody ever knows about, but that just completely made it so that you could put your smiley face back on and get
Yeah.
back out there.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It was so wonderful. It made all the difference. Definitely.
That's awesome. So who were some of your champions during your time? You said Boggin, right?
So my first champion was Leif Iverson, who unfortunately has passed on. And he and I had known each other for years, and we were really close. And so it was really special that he won. And I was very excited. And after the tournament, he came to me and he said, I just felt like I needed to do this and win for you. And
Aw.
very touching and sweet. And then he said, but I have to let you know that I'm working full time and I'm going to school full time. So I'm probably not going to be around as much as I would really like to be. And that was kind of a shame. We missed having him around. He absolutely showed up when he could, and he was
Yeah.
amazing. When he did. Olaf Bjornsson was King's champion, and so he kind of had double duty, and he so stepped up to the plate. He ended up being one of my best champions, even though he wasn't really my champion. He was just amazing. Really
That's
fast.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. And then who were some of your other champions?
Let's see. I believe it was my third reign. Sir Jalute was my champion, and he doesn't really play anymore. And he was, let me try to get this straight. He was Queen's champion, King's champion, and Knight Marshal, Kingdom Knight Marshal or something. He had like
Oh,
three
wow.
huge jobs that he was trying
Yeah.
to do all at once. And
Mhm.
he is this fiery little redheaded guy who is he's so charismatic and he's always having a great time. And it was so fun just having that energy around. He's just
Yeah.
buzzing, doing everything all at once. Really fun. And we gave him, we enjoyed giving him a hard time for trying to be at three places at once. And it was fun. It was fun.
So it used to be a tournament to determine who was Queen's champion
Yes.
during your time as Queen? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, it was fun. It was a huge tournament. Lots of turnout. It was one of the premier tournaments in the kingdom for a long time. Being Queen's champion was really quite an honor. And there was a juju factor, if you will, that oftentimes the Queen's champion won the next crown. So it
Oh.
was kind of like this, being Queen's champion was like a good luck for crown kind of thing. So that kind of added, I think,
That's
to
cool.
the allure of fighting in the tournament. But there were some unfortunate situations with queens and champions that just didn't quite figure out at that point. We had just started looking at having the King's champion be chosen. In the beginning, the king's champion was whoever came in second in crown.
Oh, okay.
And so there were some issues there. And so after that had happened and the king got to pick his champion, the queen was like, wait a second, I want to be able to pick mine too. And so
Yeah.
eventually that changed.
Yeah, it was such a relief. Well, I don't want to say a relief, but it was so nice to be able to pick my champion and say, I'm going to a lot of stuff. I'm a war queen, and these are all the things that I'm going to need to go to, and I'm going to need you by my side.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nice to be able to, my queen's champion's amazing. It's Lady Kata is my queen's champion, and she is like the best road tripper partner. She's amazing. She takes great care of me, and it's a really good fit. So that's kind of nice that you can do that because it's such a big job.
It is. And these, it used to be that the Outlands court, if you will, wasn't very big.
Mhm.
The king and the queen really just did everything.
Yeah,
And Arton and I went to Callantyre, and some friends of ours were king and queen there. And so we got to kind of get a peek behind the scenes of how they did things there. And they had a huge court. They had head of household, and they had, ladies in waiting, and they had scribes, and they had all these people working for them. And we were like, oh, this is a cool idea. So when we came back, the next time we were crowned, we kind of instituted some of that, and it's really made being king and queen, I think, so much more fun, so much more meaningful, because you have this whole group of people that you really get to know.
yeah,
And I know, as somebody who's supported kings and queens, it's almost more fun than being king and queen.
yeah.
um, and so you kind of spread the joy, if you will, around a bit, and you make your job a lot easier.
It does. I mean, having that support makes it so that I can go and do amazing queen stuff, right?
Mhm.
And so not having to worry and like having those great people that like I don't even need to think about that. I don't need to worry about, X, Y, or Z because my people, they've got this. And I
Yeah,
can just go and
yeah.
focus on being queen. And so,
One one of the biggest things was ordering and organizing scrolls.
yeah,
Um, and so we spent a lot of our not an event at an event time contacting people, figuring out what awards, and then contacting people to make the scrolls, and making sure who was going to bring them to the event, and make sure they were at the event, and then making sure they were in some sort of order and they were actually at court.
oh
Um,
man,
and
I can't
that kind of
imagine.
stuff. I remember that being one of the biggest jobs.
Oh yeah. I,
And it eventually kind of fell on um, Blue Iris Herald to kind of pick that up and do that job, and that was such a huge job. I'm sure it still is, and I would think there might be even more people involved at this point than just the Blue Iris Herald.
yeah,
Um,
we have the Kingdom Scribe is who
yeah,
organizes. I mean, it's a
it,
humongous job, and we've been so fortunate to have a
mm-hmm,
series of really good ones, and we've had a new one that was put in during the lockdown, and he's
yeah,
been great at getting back scrolls wrangled. I mean, it's a humongous job that
yeah.
I can't imagine having to do that in addition to everything else.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely, there were a lot more times back then when the king and queen would give an award without a scroll, and the scroll would then be commissioned by the awardee.
Oh,
I
that's
know,
crazy.
yeah, and then it would happen whenever it would happen, and it wouldn't even necessarily be given in court. Uh,
Wow,
yeah, yeah.
crazy.
Changes, big changes for the better.
Right? So
Yeah.
we had a question come up that says, "What is a memory that sticks out above all the others that made you proud to be an Outlands member?" And this is from Countess Mariana. She's a new Outlander.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Uh, Proud to be an Outlander. Gosh, there's so many. We're just such awesome people.
Yeah.
Uh, there's. I mean, I just get a flood of them. Some of them are hearing reports from other royalty about how amazing our populace was who went to their event. That was
Yeah.
something we got a lot. so and so went to some, little event somewhere in another kingdom, and they took the time to contact us and say, wanted to let you know so and so came to our event and they were amazing. Um,
Yeah.
they helped, they put up tents, they cared, they were fun, they were wonderful, they were chivalrous. That kind of stuff is one of my big ones, I think, is um, the reputation that we've made across the kingdoms, for being generous and friendly and open and nice and helpful people.
Yeah. That is, I can absolutely see that.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. So, what are
yeah.
some of your favorite pieces of regalia?
I always loved the original crowns.
Mhm.
I just think they're incredibly beautiful. I know they're really heavy, but I just always felt so proud wearing them. And the signet rings.
The
Um,
signet rings are
something
very cool.
about those rings. I think maybe because I wore it pretty much all the time. So it kind of became, it was like, it was hard to take it off because I'd gotten so used to it for wearing it so much. And any opportunity that we had to use it, we would use it, just because it was
Very
really cool. It was just a really cool thing to have.
And it seems like you've been around so much Outlands history. This is going to be a big one. What's your favorite Outlands tradition?
Oh, wow. Favorite Outlands tradition. One of the ones that comes to my mind is that started, I don't even know how long ago, maybe even before we were a kingdom, but certainly shortly after, is um, everybody yelling Outlands at the end of court.
Yeah.
I've been to other kingdoms and they don't do that.
No.
Uh, and I think it's a cool thing that we do, and it's a sense of pride that
Yeah.
we have. Um, there's so many cool traditions that we have. I love the warlord, and having the warlord have the axe, and making sure that whoever wins that tournament is really proficient in a lot of different weapons forms.
Yeah.
That's a really cool tradition. Having lightning and thunderhead is a really cool tradition.
Yeah.
I was really surprised when I realized that other kingdoms don't necessarily have that. And we've had that sword since day one. Um, and, there have been very few piers made without that sword. There have been a few that were made with Thunderhead, but I think just about everybody else has been made with that. Another tradition I absolutely love is the baby knight's chain, which is probably about, 10 yards long at this point. But I just think that's such an awesome way of acknowledging the growth of our kingdom and these amazing knights.
Yeah.
I mean, what an honor to have that lineage just right there, and you get to wear it around.
Yeah, I know it's so long, people giggle, but it's such an impactful moment of the ceremony. Seeing like they're completely entwined in this enormously long chain is very cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it started off as a lamp chain. Those old
Hmm.
fashioned kind of lamp chains that they would
That
hang
they hung from.
from.
Hmm.
And there were some links on it, but not enough to make a whole chain. And then as, more and more knights were made, they took the lamp chains off and replaced it with the knights chains. And now I think the only lamp chain links on there now came from knights who had lamp chains as their chain. Because back then there really wasn't any other way to get a chain.
Yeah. So I mean, what are some of the things that have changed over the years that you're kind of blown away by? I mean, I was just blown away when you told me that you didn't have a kingdom scribe. Like, what are some of the other things that,
Um,
as you see the society kind of evolve and change, that you're that you're kind of blown away by?
I think one of the most impactful pieces has been media. When we got email, that was so huge. The number of letters that we wrote was unbelievable. And some crowns wrote more than others, but Arton and I really tried to respond to every letter we got. And we got a lot of letters, and we wrote a lot of letters. And we ended up having, I think that was one of our first um, royal household members, was a secretary, basically, who would answer and correspond with our letters. And she would come over once or twice a week, and we'd sit down and go over all the letters, and we would tell her what we wanted to say and everything. And then she would write them and send them out. They were all handwritten,
Oh, wow.
sent out on usually nice paper, at least, if not some kind of royal stationery. Um,
Oh,
and
cool.
when we got email, that just made communication so vastly different. It just really, I think, changed the culture of everything, because now you could get instantaneous answers. You could problem solve immediately. You didn't have to wait, 3 weeks for 2 or 3 letters to go back and forth.
And so were the letters mostly about like business, like coordinating, or
Most of the real business was usually done over the phone.
okay.
The letters were often thank yous, making arrangements for things,
Mhm.
getting award recommendations, asking for, we're going to be, that was another thing that happened all the time, was crash space. Everywhere we went, we usually stayed at somebody's house. And
Mhm.
so some of the letters were organizing that kind of thing. Who's coming where, who's going to do what, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. But if it
Cool.
was important, it was on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, the instant thing is kind of weird because sometimes I know messages come through and you're like, I'm at work, I can't really talk right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. And you get this pressure, like you feel like you have to answer it right away.
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah,
no, sorry, you're gonna have to wait.
yeah, yeah, that is different. So, okay, you said award recommendations came through in letters. So was there not an award database when you
Oh
reigned?
no. Mm-mm, mm-mm,
Oh, okay.
mm-mm.
And that so they would write letters is how they would do it.
Yeah, they would write letters. For example, a baron or a baroness or even a seneschal or somebody would write us a letter and say, we've got this person in our group and they're working really hard and we would really like to recommend them for XYZ. And then we would respond and say, thank you so much for your recommendation. It's always wonderful to hear about our populace, blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah. And then we would make a decision and um, attempt to arrange a scroll and then pass it out at the next event where that person is likely to be.
Oh, wow. Okay, so was it just like seneschals and baronies, or did like people, just populist members write letters?
In the beginning, it wasn't so much populous, but then it became. We tried really hard to open it up because the crown can't be everywhere and see everything, and we really need everybody's eyes. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of really hardworking people out there that aren't in the main front of everything, and they need to be acknowledged. And so we really kind of tried to convince people that you don't have to be. I mean, you could just be anybody to make an award recommendation.
So some things never change because we have to tell people all the time, please log into the database. We want to recognize amazing
Please, yeah.
people.
And the first database that there was just a list of who had what.
Okay.
And that was it was limited to I believe Catherine of Ivora had, I don't know if she started it, but at one point I know that was her baby. And she kept it current and stuff. And if you wanted to see it, you had to contact her. We
Wow.
didn't have the cloud. We didn't have anything like that. So she could, send you a copy or something. Um, but yeah, it wasn't readily accessible.
Wow. Okay, so because I'm a master of defense, I have to ask about the evolution of rapier during your time
Oh,
to
yeah.
where it is now.
Yeah.
So, where was rapier at when you were queen the first time versus where it was the fourth time?
So different. So shortly before I was queen the first time, the Outlands signed the White Scarf Treaty with Anstiora. And so we had, I believe at that time, we had 2 or 3 white scarves. And fencing, it was still kind of on the fringe, you know. It was kind of, we didn't ever have fencing events. The fencers were kind of over there, regulated to the sidelines a lot. Um, they were kind of almost a different culture, that often wasn't part of the mainstream of what was going on. And as we brought more, you know, as we made more white scarves, and the white scarves took a stronger and stronger role, we had, um, the white scarves kind of became the queen's men.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite memories is being queen at Estrella. And we had a group of young men, some of whom were white scarves and some who weren't. And there was a big, it was one of the first years that there was a big fencing. I don't know if it was a melee or a tournament. I think it might have been like a combination, like a team tournament.
Okay.
And they came to me saying, "We're going to go to this tournament in your honor," and blah, 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 blah. And they were so excited, and I loved them. They were so amazing. They just made me so proud. So, so proud. And I had a scarf, and I tore it up, and I gave each of them a little piece of the scarf as a favor for them. And I mean, their feet weren't touching the ground. It was amazing. And they went and just swept the floor with everybody. We're so excited and so happy, and it was so fun and exciting to see this group of people kind of start to come into their own, and really become a part of the SCA in a bigger way. It was really fun. And
That's
then
cool.
I'm not sure if Sordid Affair started when we were Crown or if somebody else started it, but Sordid Affair was a really cool event here in Alberon that was strictly a fencing event.
Mhm.
And it was kind of, it was usually around Easter. And so it was kind of a celebration of spring. And it was fun and light. And the fencers have some of the greatest senses of humor around their fighting. They are so much fun, and they would come up with these outrageous, really fun tournaments to do. And that event went on and on for years and years and years. That was one of our premier events. It was just really, really
And is
fun.
that Sordid Affair or is that a different event?
No, that's Sordid Affair.
That is Sordid Affair. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Very cool. How cool to be there to see that whole evolution of
yeah.
how they fit in, and oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing how they really, you know, watching them evolve and really become their own, into their own, I think. It's really neat. Really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so then as your reigns went on, you had a little one
I did.
in your third, so you were wrangling a little one during your third and fourth reign, or
Yes. So my third reign, he was pretty little. Um, I'm trying to remember. I believe he turned 1 shortly after coronation.
wow.
Yeah. And so he walked early, so he was walking around and toddling around during that rain. That was a winter rain. I remember we decided to go to Cairton 12th night,
Mhm.
and Arton was going to drive with some people, and I flew because I didn't want to be in the car with a 1-year-old for that. And so I flew, and I got there, and they didn't. The
Oh
road
no.
so bad that they turned around and came home. And so I was up there by myself. And the Cairtons couldn't have been nicer. Everybody took such good care of me. Um, One of the funny stories is actually back to the fencers. We were having a white scarf meeting,
Mhm.
and I had little William there, and we were in the middle of this meeting, and he's squirming around on my lap and doing what little babies do. And
Right.
he threw up on me, and I think everybody in the room just like leaped up, and they were all rushing around trying to do something, helpful. It was amazing. And at the time, um, Baroness Maud was on Rhea.
Mhm.
And so she jumped up and really just saved the day, totally saved the day. Jumped up, took care of everything, shoot everybody out, got me cleaned up. I mean, she was just priceless, just amazing as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was actually one of the first Outlanders. I met her at 50 year
Oh, wonderful.
when I was
Yeah.
still, so that summer, I'm trying to think, that was the summer I was kind of transitioning to the Outlands. Was it that summer? Yeah, I was, and I had, my stuff moved here before I did, and then I was kind of back and forth for a while, and I was on staff for that event, so I got to meet her before
Nice.
before
Nice.
I came out. But yeah, they're very very sweet, and the
Oh,
Rapier folks are always amazing.
yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then how much later then was your fourth reign?
Quite a bit later. Oh, 06, maybe. My second son was maybe 4 or 5.
Okay.
And so it was a long time later. Um, and that was a very different kind of experience. It had been a really long time since we'd been crowned.
Mhm.
Um, well, probably since from 94 to, I think it was 5 or 6. I think it was '06.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so over 10 years.
Hmm.
And we had a blast. We had so much fun. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
um, really having no particular agenda. There were some awards we wanted to give, but it was just amazing. And the team we had um, was really great. It was a really good experience. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it seems it's like you learn so much in 6 months that you it
Or over a year in your case. Oh my gosh.
we're over 2 years by the time I stepped down.
Isn't that, I mean, I can't even fathom that kind of an experience. Yeah, yeah. Not
Yeah,
only are you queen for so long, but queen online.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I think yeah, it'll be like 4 or 5, equivalent to 4 or 5 reigns by the time we're done. So,
Hopefully, I mean, I don't know exactly how this is. I don't think anybody really knows exactly how this is all going to play out, but I hope you get some time to actually go to events as queen,
yeah,
and enjoy that part of it because that's magical. That's just magical.
yeah. I mean, we were just kind of hitting the point where I was like, oh yeah, I think I got this. I think I know. I I at least know enough to know what I don't know.
Right? Yeah.
So I think so. We were kind of just starting to hit our stride when things got
Yeah.
shut down. So yeah, you just learn so much in those first. I mean, it's kind of like drinking from the fire hose there at first.
And I don't know of anybody who has sat on the throne who didn't get a bit of a wake up call.
Yeah,
It's like it doesn't matter what job you might have held, how many reigns you supported in any capacity. It's not the same as sitting in the big chair. And you sit in the big chair and you go, oh, okay.
yeah, exactly. I had been the head of a house. I had been
Hmm.
retinue. I had been a champion. I had been a queen's guard. I had been. I mean, I had done all
Done
these.
it all.
Yeah, and yeah, no, it's there is literally nothing that could ever prepare you for
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. I
So,
do think that being queen prepared me for my wedding. I don't think a wedding could prepare you for being queen, but I did find that going through the ceremony, the wedding ceremony was similar to a coronation.
yeah,
And so I think I wasn't nearly as nervous as I would have been otherwise
yeah.
because it
Well,
was like, okay, I've done this.
yeah, I hear people compare like a peerage elevation to their wedding,
Yes.
but I
Yeah.
don't. I honestly, coronation felt more like a wedding
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, me too. Me
But
too.
my elevation was crazy too. Like I was offered at Penzic at Grand Court, and then I was elevated like the next morning in a
Oh,
field
wow.
court.
That's not a lot of time to prepare.
No, so maybe to me it's different because I had a different experience, or I don't know.
Well, and I think part of what makes the peerage ceremony kind of like a wedding ceremony is the prep.
Yeah.
The really turning it into a special ceremony, because that's what you do for a wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you usually do for coronation.
Yeah.
But without that, it makes it, yeah, different, and equally as wonderful and special, but still.
So
Yeah,
who
one of
are
my, go ahead.
some of the peers that you made?
Well, I
Speaking
was
of
just going to
peers.
say one of the peers that I remember as one of the most exciting and enjoyable was knighting Duke Hrothgar on the field at Estrella. So
Cool.
we're on the field, all of our army is around us. We're doing this amazing on the field knighting, and they blow the horn to lay on. And
Oh.
we're there, army starting to move, right? They're starting to like lay on has been called. And we finish up the ceremony. They put on their helmets. Me and my people leave and they go off to war.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
it was
That's
just
so
so
crazy.
fabulous. It was really quite spectacular. It was really neat.
So was that planned, or did you offer and then elevate like all at the same time?
Um, we we planned it,
Okay.
but nobody else knew. So we called him forward and knighted him, and
That's
then
cool.
we had an actual knighting ceremony later that day. I think that evening.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I always wondered the difference between the, opening court and elevating someone versus like, offering them and then having them sit vigil and, the kind of the difference. Because we've offered people, but we haven't just open court and elevated anybody.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't do that often. Just a few times, but it was, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it happens very often.
No, I think people really like to have the time to prep and make it into something really special.
Yeah,
And for the most part, Crown respects that and understands that, and so they do their best to give them
yeah, that time.
that time. Yeah.
Or give their friends the time.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So what were some of your favorite memories as Crown?
Gosh, one of my favorites was I was queen and Duchess Madigan was crown princess, and Archon had to leave. I don't even remember where we were. We must have not been too far. Maybe we were in Dragonspine or someplace. Anyway, he had to get the boys and come back for um, just totally blanked baseball. Little League baseball. Both the boys were in baseball. And so Madigan and I had court, and we made at least one laurel, I remember. And that was really fun. I think that's the first time, certainly in Outlands history, that the queen and the crown princess made a peer.
Oh,
That was
cool.
really cool. That was really cool. That was
Are you
great.
a laurel?
No,
No. Okay.
pelican.
A pelican. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure which one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not a laurel. No, just pelican. Yeah.
That's really cool. So
Yeah.
who was it? Who was the pelican?
I'm
Or
sorry.
who was the laurel that you made?
Oh, I always call her Spike. Leonora.
Okay.
They're from oh, my brain is Cairgalen. Uh,
Okay.
she and her husband are just amazing artists. They're just such incredible people. It was an honor to be the crown to do that.
That's cool.
Really nice.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So what about some of the others? Knighting and I mean, is it I mean, we haven't made any knights, so I don't know as the queen, like how is that to knight people?
It's cool. It's
Is
really
it?
cool. It is. It's really cool. And I think over the years, we've developed, that was another thing that I think has been really amazing is to watch how these different ceremonies have evolved and developed over the years, and how the queen's part certainly in the knighting ceremony, but even some of the other ones has gotten bigger and more important, and the ceremony and her part flows better. And so the part of the queen's part in a knighting, I think, is so important, reminding them of what they're signing up for, basically,
Yeah.
and what kind of people they need to be from now on.
Mhm.
And that's really important. It's a really neat thing. Putting on the belt is something that originally was the queen's job, was
Okay.
putting on the belt. And I'm not sure if that's still the case, or if I know there were some times when the person's, somebody special to the person who was getting knighted would do it,
Yeah.
or the queen and that person would do it together. That was always neat. But it's amazing having that front seat view, and really being a part of that
Yeah,
amazing.
we've only made a laurel so far.
Yeah,
So
it's uh, I think especially for young men getting knighted, it's such a rite of passage
mhm.
that it's really it has a slightly different flavor when you're really a part of that. It's like they become your boys, that you kind of brought up in a way.
Mhm.
Very special.
I know I feel very accountable to the crown that made me appear.
Right?
So I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
imagine as a knight, that same relationship, and every time I, want to say or do something, I'm like, oh, I don't want to reflect badly on the king and queen
Right.
that made me. So I'm always like, oh no, is that going to look
Yeah.
badly?
It's like
Reflect badly, poorly on them. So I'm
they
always like, okay,
yeah,
no, I
they're
need
like
to,
become your Jiminy Cricket.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because I
Absolutely.
never want to do anything that would, reflect poorly on the people who made
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think some of the best memories are um Estrella marching to the battle. The Outlands always had the war drums, and we would have, hundreds of fighters with us, and banners flying, and the drums going, and everybody knew the Outlands was coming.
yeah,
That's pretty spectacular. We had one of my favorite memories was this crazy event. I don't even remember what it was called. It was out at a lake in Anstiora, not Anstiora, Aitenveld somewhere, and it was a war. Um, it was it was this big war, and so Arton and I got off work on Friday, and he had a little Mazda truck, so we packed all the regalia and everything in the truck, and we left. We start heading out there. It's probably like a 6-hour drive or something. I mean, it's not that far, but it's far.
hmm
And we're going, and there's this huge thunderstorm, and it gets really cold. And we're an hour maybe out of Albuquerque, and I turn on the heater. And unbeknownst to us, turning on the heater pops a hose. And pretty soon the temperature of the truck goes zoom. And I mean, the engine's smoking. So we pull over at this little gas station in the middle of nowhere at, 11 o'clock at night or whatever. The phone's out. There's no
oh,
service. There's nothing. So we get some oil. We don't know what's wrong. We put in a bunch of oil, and we're nursing this truck back to Albuquerque. And it was like we had no options other than to get the truck back to Albuquerque. There's no cell phones.
right.
Uh, we're not leaving the regalia in the truck by itself. We're not leaving me in the truck and the regalia by myself. We're not sending me in some strange car going to Albuquerque to get help. So it was like this, oh my gosh. This vehicle actually made it back to our house in Albuquerque. I could not believe it. So we get home. There's smoke billowing out of the engine of this truck. Somebody calls the fire department.
Oh my
The
god.
fire department comes, and they're like, we will go outside, and we're like, it's fine, it's off. It's, oh, stay away from the car, blah blah blah. And they're, they got everything ready, expecting to open the hood and this huge blaze come out or something, and it didn't. So they go away. So we call Our wonderful friends, they live in, where do they live now? They live out in the south now. They're just the most amazing people. Sir Robert and Elfkafu, Mistress Elfkafu, and they were just such good friends. And Sir Robert's already at the event. And so we call. Now it's like 1 a.m, and we're calling, and
Oh,
she answers, and we explain what happened. So she comes over and gets us, and we take her back home. So now we have her van. We load everything up in the van, um, and we drive to the event. We get to the event at about 6 o'clock in the morning, or so, give or take. We get there, we kind of set our stuff up, and by the time we're kind of dressed and ready and stuff, it's time to have court and go to battle. So our time, this is right about the time Kenneth Branagh's Henry V have just come out.
okay.
And that is just an incredible movie. And he does the St. Crispin's Day speech, which is just amazing. So Arton has been working on this for a little while, and he gets all our fighters around us, and he's sitting there, and he does this. I'm getting chills just remembering it. He does the St. Crispin's Day speech, um, substituting all of the people who are right in front of him and himself. So it's totally authentic and real. Nobody expected it. It was so inspiring. It was so powerful. The Outlands army goes out there, and I'm not kidding. That battle lasted maybe a minute. I mean, our guys were so on fire. They just walked through everybody else. Just it was so powerful. It was just really one of those truly magical times. Really, really fabulous.
Okay. You never forget those magic moments.
No, you really don't. That was just really, really amazing.
That's awesome.
That was quite the adventure.
So, as a four-time queen, what advice would you give to somebody who's just won crown tournament?
Breathe. Everything's going to be just fine. Surround yourself with people you really, really trust who will tell you the truth, even if it's hard. There's going to be a lot of people who are wanting you to like them. And so they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. And it's really important to have those people who are going to tell you the truth. And if that's a bad idea, they're going to tell you it's a bad idea. I think that's really important. Surround yourself with people who make you laugh. Have a great time. Don't
Yep.
take it too seriously.
Absolutely. And then, as a lady of the rose,
At the same time, I want to say, remember who you serve. You know, as Crown, you're serving the populace of the Outlands.
Yeah.
That's you. Everything you do is for and about them. Keep that in mind. Yeah.
that's very, very good advice. People think it's a glamorous job, and it can be,
It
but the
can,
job
and
is
it
to
should look
serve.
glamorous. I think it should look glamorous. It should look easy. It should look, magical and amazing. But the whole show that you're putting on is for the people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. That's great. I like that. So as a lady of the rose, like what would you say to a new lady of the rose?
Everybody's watching you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Your who you are is different now. You're not just that, some person. You've been queen of the Outlands, and that's a very important um, job that doesn't, the job goes away, but I think the importance of who you are never goes away. So I know that's kind of maybe a little scary, but I always think about, I don't always think about, But sometimes I think it's important to remind myself that the way I comport myself, the things that I say, the things that I do, reflect on the crown of the Outlands because I sat in that chair. Not that it should dictate, by any means, but just something to keep in mind.
No, that's good advice. That's very good advice. Because you think that, oh, when I'm done, I'm just going to go back to the person that I was before, and that's just not going to be the case, really.
Right, exactly. In a lot of ways, you will just go back to being the person you were before, but in a lot of ways, you won't. People are going to acknowledge you, Your Excellency, Your Excellency, Your Grace, Your Grace, whatever. They're going to acknowledge you. You're not just nobody.
Yeah.
Not that you were nobody before, but it's different now.
You're not as anonymous as you could be before.
Yes, exactly.
There is no, you cannot be as anonymous.
Yes, and when you're not anonymous, when you are known, people are going to notice, whatever it is, good or bad, people are going to notice. Now, I very carefully remove myself from any sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, not necessarily politics, but some of that more
controversy.
Yes. And I don't have, any kind of a Facebook presence, or I'm not part of any of the chat whatevers, or the groups. There's a Lady of the Rose group, and I know there's a Pelican group and an Outlands group and all this stuff, and I don't really participate in any of that. And I've heard of situations of people who do and have really gotten hurt because of some of the things people have said or done. And I think it's important to remember that you're now a target, and you now have what it takes to hurt other people because you're not anonymous anymore.
Yeah.
And there's going to be people out there who are going to want to use your influence, if you will, for their benefit.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. The responsibility of being a countess and a Lady of the Rose.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's awesome because you get all the benefits of being a countess and none of the responsibility of being queen.
And that's so funny. When His Majesty, one of my friends said, man, this is going to be great because you can sponsor rapier fighters at the Rose Tourney now.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of times we get asked, but sometimes when we go to war, like, Gulf Wars, there's not always, an Outlands Rose there. Right. And so, one of my friends said, man, this is going to be great because you can just sponsor all of us.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely.
Oh, yeah, I guess I
can. Yeah.
So that's kind of kind of funny.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? So we talked about some of the traditions. So what are some awards that you guys created? Can you think of anything off the top of your head? Because I'm sure they didn't just pick this kingdom.
And his previous queen, Tara, created the white scarves. They did a bunch of stuff. God, this is terrible, but I don't remember. I don't remember actually creating an award. Maybe, I'm sure we did. Oh, maybe we did all the grant level awards. Did we do that? No. I think Rothgar did that. No, I'm sorry. I really don't remember awards that we made. If we created any. I know some of my favorite awards to give are the Walker of the Way. I think that's just such a magical award.
Who were your walkers? Do you remember any?
Cregon, Curiel. I don't remember. Isn't that terrible?
No, that's not terrible.
The other one is the Queen's Grace, which I think is a really amazing award. And I spent quite a bit of time making them, having a really great time braiding the green and white little lanyards. I don't know what's happening with that award these days. I haven't paid any attention, but when I was still pretty involved, it was the queen could only, no, the queen could give as many as she wanted, but traditionally she only gave one. And it was given to the person she felt exemplified courtly graces during her reign. And it was really special. You can only ever receive one of them. That's an award you can never get more than one of. And I remember just really having a wonderful time giving that out and
Cool.
recognizing some of the people who I thought were just really special.
Okay, so you brought up an interesting Outlandsy thing.
Okay.
Rule versus tradition, or,
Yeah.
or law versus tradition.
Yep. And they're different. There is nowhere that says that limits. I don't believe there's anything that limits the number of queen's graces a queen can give out.
Mhm.
And like I said, traditionally, originally, they only gave one. It made it, I think, a little more special.
So where do you think the law versus tradition thing kind of started? Because it's, I mean, that was one of the things I was most worried about was how am I going to know all these traditions because they're not written down and and I don't want to mess up and how do I?
You know, I think the Outlands, we've had that conversation over the years so often about we should write down our traditions and blah, blah, blah. And then there's the voice, the voices saying, no, 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 no. And I'm kind of on the side of no, because what makes it a tradition is the fact that it changes. Traditions change just naturally without any thought. They just do. It's part of, I believe, the definition of a tradition is it's based on the past, but everybody puts their own flavor in it. And
Okay.
so I don't think there's, if you're aware of the traditions and you're aware of the rules, the laws, that's all you need to be.
Yeah.
And then you put your own spin on it. And so I think it's not something to be afraid of. I think, some people break traditions and some people think it's great and some people don't. And that's always going to happen. And some people change traditions a little bit.
Yeah.
And some people change traditions a lot.
So, okay, then you'll get a big kick out of this. When we got the regalia, I was very excited because there was a book that said Outlands Traditions. And I was like, yes, this is what I needed. This is what I needed to look at. This is what I needed to see. And it's this beautifully leather tooled book. And I opened it up and it's blank.
Nice.
It's like, okay, that's either the best practical joke that somebody has ever played,
right?
Or, and then, it was explained that, like, no, if we write it down, then it's a law, it's not a tradition. So that's very fitting that the traditions book
I like it.
was entirely blank. And so I thought, okay, that pretty much tells me everything I need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Like the tradition of, and I don't even know if this tradition is still happening, but there was a box of dirt. And
Yes.
So every crown tournament, you would collect a little bit of that dirt and mix it in with all the other dirt, and then you'd have the dirt throwing thing. And from my point of view, that's a pretty new tradition.
Okay.
We didn't do that. I think that might have been around our last reign, maybe. But yeah, that's a pretty new tradition for me, and I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
it's
very cool
little thing. Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you so much. It was a lovely chat. I mean, our time went by so fast. I can't believe we're already at,
wow.
Yeah, but so thank you so much for joining us, Your Grace. Like I said, this is an amazing opportunity to talk to somebody that's really been in the trenches and has seen so much Outlands history. And I hope the Outlands just understands what a treasure your time has been for us.
Thank you so much.
We thank you for joining us. So,
my pleasure.
You're welcome. We've got not a lot of time. Well, we've got some time. We got till June 1st until we're going to be hopefully starting to make our way out of our isolation.
Yeah, we were very sad and completely on board with and understand postponing Battlemore. But hopefully at some point we'll actually get to meet in person.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be really wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been really great. It's been fabulous getting to know you.
Excellent. So stay tuned, Outlands. We've got a couple more Outlands RoyalTeas coming up in the last couple of months of our time apart. His Majesty will be hosting an amazing former king. I cannot for the life of me think of who, but in a couple of weeks, it'll be a great show. I was hoping maybe there'd be a little banner or a clue as to who it was, but I'm just completely blank, so that's okay. There's going to be another Outlands RoyalTea show His Majesty will be hosting in a couple of weeks, so log on for that. And if you are still looking for something to do today, we still have the ANS Collegium going on. So, and until then, Outlands, have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.